Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. And welcome to Wasteland Talks, my new talk show where just talk about random stuff. Because, spoiler reviews for movies. I have a new GOAT series, which I started with Adam talking about, some of the greats. We started with Hitchcock, so a great place to start. And now spending a lot of time over the past 2 weeks just talking about how media is released basically, and this time for television we have Alice here, that my good friend from SiftPop. So Alice, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
And of course the drill is you may shamelessly plug whatever you'd like to shamelessly plug before we start talking about some television.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, obviously, as Shane mentioned, you can find my articles on SiftPop.com. So, my most recent one was my monthly column, One Stop Pop, where I basically, based on whatever was most popular the month before, normally in movies, but if the movies that month were awful, I'll sometimes move to TV if there was one around that time that was successful. And I recommend other pieces of media based on elements you might have liked from that movie. So, for February, it was Uncharted. And there were their fans, but also in this case, it was not necessarily because it was such a success, but also maybe there were some people left wanting. And so I've recommended there's a podcast, a different non-Uncharted video game, a book, as well as a TV show. So recommend checking that out. And then you can also find me on Letterboxd and Instagram at Ali G Mick. Instagram is where on my stories, I'll update people when I'm on, Shane's show or other podcasts. And then Letterboxd is where I write my 1 to 2 liners thoughts and have my lists and stuff.
Awesome. And check out the fan made small Uncharted movie with Nathan Fillion that everybody else wanted. So
just wouldn't have been hard to just do that, but big.
Well, the funny thing is, apparently 10 years ago, it was supposed to be Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. And then they were like,
Russell. Oh. And then they're just like, no, we'll just make you the older guy. It's just like, oh, okay.
Even though now he's actually the right age to be Nathan Drake. So I don't know. Should have just let Nathan Fillion do it. I don't know what the problem was. What's the problem? Where's the lie?
I guess studios don't think he's as big of a deal as fans on the internet do.
Yeah, I know. I think that people need to really, or studios really need to understand the idea of the cult following, and that can bring, look at Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk. That is one of the funniest, speaking of TV, that's one of the funniest TV shows on television right now, because Alan Tudyk is being allowed to just be his weirdest, most comedic, and actually really show quite a variety of emotion. And, Nathan Fillion is just as loved by many different people across many different sects of fandom. So for me, it makes sense as a business decision, especially because with a movie like Uncharted, it's not the actors that are going to pull you in. It's the Uncharted name. People are going to go see it because it's an Uncharted film. And then if you cast accurately, it'll only help with that. But look, this isn't an Uncharted.
Indeed. But in terms of talking about television models in terms of releases, because and we'll get a different perspective as well from Alice too, because I'm not sure exactly how different it is in Australia, how they release shows and stuff like that. But I know at least the traditional, cable network thing here in the US is you open September, you have half a season, you have the mid-season finale in December, and you're like, oh, the holidays, people won't be watching the shows. And then, a lot of the times it's off until February. And especially some of the network shows that I still watch are all the Sunday night Fox ones, and they disappear because football. And then they come back in February and stuff like that. And then they finish off sometime in the spring. And there you go, you have a season. And then Netflix happened. And then it's like, oh, we just drop a whole entire season. And then binge culture became a thing. And then people don't have patience anymore. And then it's just I need to watch this whole thing now.
Yeah.
And then what's been so interesting is what's filled in the middle. because there's so many different kinds of things of like, it's made me happy to see, like, me personally, like a return to weekly kind of thing. But that's even, there's so many different things because it's like, you know, I think Apple generally is like, here's 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Or like, I think The Boys did that too. It's like first 3 episodes. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And like, and we'll get into details about each of these things, but like, you know, drop 2 or 3 of the first episodes and then it's every week. Apple does that. Amazon does that. And then
Disney Plus does that too.
Disney Plus does that as well. What I like to call the HBO Max approach, which is like every week we give you a random number of episodes dropping because it's like, are we getting 3, 2? And like, maybe
we don't know.
Finale, it's just 1.
Yeah.
And because like, I was really weirded out when Our Flags Mean Death. And
that's
just like,
literally the show I was thinking about in my head when you mentioned that.
First week, 3 episodes. I'm like, okay, they're just starting things out. And then because, you know, planning.
Yeah.
then this Thursday, I'm like, wait a minute. There's another hour and a half episodes?
Yeah.
Like, why? And then I'm like, is this done next week? Because like, I'm assuming it's 8, 9, 10 episodes.
Let's confirm.
And that's the thing. Sometimes you have to look up, and there's certain streaming services, like at least Apple will label, this is the season finale. And I'm like, thank you. So at least I know. And then, you know, you have, which was interesting what they just did with Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, because I literally just finished the season today. Because all these seasons before this were just dropped, binge it. This time, for 4 Fridays, they released 2 episodes. And I'm like, but why? And that's the thing. I never get why. I don't get what's the reasoning behind, here's a certain amount of episodes, but whatever. You know, every streaming service chooses their thing. And then I think one of the biggest things, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is the whole, let's split a season in 2 parts and pretend it's the same season when you could just be like, they're 2 seasons. And what I appreciate, and this is a thing that I actually appreciate about at least British television, is calling them series. Only because what does a season infer? A season of television. There's no season of television anymore. Like, I know television and like network television still kind of goes on like the season of the fall season, spring season kind of thing. But like, you could just be like, well, here's a set of episodes, series 1. And most of those British shows are just like, here's 6 episodes.
We're done.
And, you know, and, you know, a lot of network television, at least in the US, it's like 23 episodes in a season. I'm like, and it's funny because I've definitely lost my patience for stuff like that. I'm like, it's just like, I appreciate that binging has streamlined TV shows, because like sometimes it's just like, do I need 23 episodes this season to go through?
No, the answer is no, because most of the besides the first few episodes, maybe a couple in the middle, and then the ones at the end, the rest are just filler. They're monster of the week, case of the week, whatever it is. And then, so what they've done is they've just cut the fat. It's like, you can still have that, but you also have the story underneath progressing, unless you're watching like Law and Order or something like that, where it's doesn't really matter about the periphery. You just want to see somebody. The whole entire
point of it's to have like
is the procedure, is the monster of the week.
I know, to give a little bit of perspective from my own experiences with television, like I used to have shows every night, like every night in growing up in elementary school and middle school and high school. Especially by the end of high school, I had shows every night. Just like, this is what I watched. Like, I used to be really into pro wrestling and watch that on a weekly basis. So like Monday nights was Monday Night Raw. And now I'm like, I can't sit there for 3 hours every Monday night and watch this because honestly, most of the time it's trash.
Yeah.
But like I remember watching like Dancing with the Stars with my mom and stuff like that. Like I don't watch any reality shows like that anymore on my own. But like I used to watch a lot of stuff like that. But like I'm pretty sure I watched every single NCIS, CSI. I watched the first couple of seasons of Blue Bloods because what was Shane in high school doing on a Friday night? Home, because I didn't really go anywhere or do anything. So
yeah.
Which that's like the most middle-aged person show. It comes out on a Friday night.
I know.
And it's just like stay at home and watch Blue Bloods.
8:30 peak Friday night time. Watch
Got my
it.
Tom Selleck mustache in. And but the thing is, it's like when college happened, I just stopped watching television, to be honest. And because like, I tried to do things and like hang out with people. And then I'm trying to remember when I jumped headlong into watching TV again. And honestly, it's been since I started really doing my channel. And then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to review a television show. Now I'm just like, I have a spreadsheet to keep track of everything because there's too much damn content.
You got to get a TV tracker app, man. It has literally saved my life. I have two because I have one that I just purely keep track of what TV shows are coming out or have come out. And then I have the second one where it's like a little mini social media where they integrated movies into it as well. But I'm like, I don't care about that. I just want it for the TV so that after it's come out, I can read other people's reactions and see if they agree with me. Or on the flip side of that, if I haven't seen the episode yet, but I just want to know what happens because I don't have time to watch it yet, but I still want to know what happens, I can go in and view the reactions to give me an idea, which is what I did this morning with Raised by Wolves because I haven't seen the new episode yet. But I'm like, all right, what after last week, what's going on? All right, interesting. Yeah, I'll watch that later. Which is, I think, jumping
weird.
off your point. Oh, like, it is weird. Are you caught up?
Like this episode that came out for me yesterday was just like I'm like snakes what
trees
giant flying snakes
I don't even
what is
know.
this show?
I was actually thinking because I was looking at it while I was making my breakfast this morning and I was just pondering on the show and I was just like, I don't know, how long is my patience going to hold? Because there's only so much intrigue that can keep a person's attention intact without any answers whatsoever. We're now almost through 2 seasons without answers besides the most minuscule story, like theory that is pretty much accurate within the characters. But besides that, everything else is just like, all this weird stuff is happening and it's still happening. And now this character this happened to this character. So, and you thought that they were like going to be there in a very different format. I'm trying to talk around it so as not to spoil it, but you know what I'm talking about. Let's say it involves a tree and involves an atheist. I'm going to say that much in the show. And that was a whole very strange way to progress that storyline. And I just think so with TV as well, like going into that, I think that there's a lot of, because of the way that they drop television now across the many different models, and it's not reliant on the network. A lot of it is, I guess what you would call cable or streaming services. There is more patience almost, but eventually patience wears thin. And if I run out of interest, there is one that I still watch, even though it is absolute total trash and awful and badly written and shouldn't exist. But I watch it because I'm like, I've committed this much time to it. I need to see how it ends. And that show is Riverdale. And it is, only watch it when I'm doing other things. Like I will not sit down and I'll watch it while I cook. I'll watch it while I clean or get ready in the morning. It is not a show I will dedicate my time to fully, but I need to see how on earth they think they're going to wrap this up because it is just gone in a completely stupid direction. Everyone watching it is almost hate watching it now because of that, which is, something to be said. Maybe that's a genre of television, but
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, Just like, this is so dumb, but I've already committed hours of my life to this.
I feel like most Star Wars is just hate watched now by its own fans.
I know. They can't be helped. They can't be made like they can't be satisfied is the word.
I'm just sitting there like, I'm enjoying Book of Boba Fett.
I know. I know, but and also I'm watching it going, but what aren't they enjoying about Book of Boba? Like, I'm enjoying it. Is everyone okay? I don't get it. Like, at least if I got it, it would make more sense. But I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And now this Obi-Wan teaser has come out and everyone loved it, except for the people who are really into Clone Wars and Rebels, because two characters who are depicted in the trailer don't look exactly how they look
Where's
in the
his
cartoon.
dome head?
Literally. And I'm like, cartoon. You know what I mean? Like, cartoon, real life. It's like, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure we can all move past. It's like Cad Bane. Everyone was so mad about Cad Bane's depiction in Book of Boba Fett.
I remember when he popped up on screen, I'm like, they made him work in real life. I'm like, holy crap.
And everyone was like,
oh,
he's not as skinny as he needs to be. And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I thought he looked cool,
any
but
human beings that skinny that are also good actors?
But you know what it was? I was talking to someone yesterday and they were like, oh, his shade of blue was too dark. He's meant to be light blue. And I was like, does it matter? He's blue, he's blue. He's got everything he needs. All right. And I understand I might be angering a lot of people right now because I haven't seen Clone Wars and I'm not going to sit down and watch 140 episodes of television when I can just learn what I need to by watching the show and looking it up on Wikipedia. Like, I don't need
just
to
watch all the lightsaber battles anyway.
Yeah, literally. Like, I'm fine. I understand enough about Ahsoka Tano. I understand enough about the whole Mandalorian subplot. And the show gives you enough to go on. I don't want to sit down. And then if you watch Clone Wars, you have to watch Rebels. So that's another 80 episodes. I do not have time to sit down and watch, or interest to sit down and watch 200 episodes of cartoons.
Rebels. So like, at least that one I can finish. I still have like 5 seasons of Clone Wars to finish.
But see, that happens. And this is, giving insight into how Australian TV works. So we got Netflix and streaming way later than you guys. Like, I think after you guys, Netflix and chill was already a term. We didn't have access to Netflix at all. And it just didn't exist. We had what was on the TV, what was on our version of network cable or something, which is called Foxtel, which is really the only one that exists here. And then they owned HBO. So anything HBO brought out. So at the time, Game of Thrones is the big one. You had to have Foxtel to watch. And then there were, let's say, alternative methods of gaining access to TV shows. And I'll be honest, that's how most people watch TV before streaming. And I said this for the longest time, the moment I have a legitimate way to access this television, I will do it. And the moment we were given the legitimate way, when Netflix happened, then we have a streaming service called Stan, which seems to just get a lot of mishmash of just what you guys have on like Hulu and HBO and CBS All Access. It just kind of like a lot of NBC stuff as well that just kind of lives on and CW that lives on Stan. For example, The Great, that's on Stan. Even though we also have Disney Plus, and that has everything. We have what we call Disney Plus Star, and that means we also get access to everything Hulu has. Then we also have the cable network Foxtel created its own streaming service called Binge, which I'm much more happy, because if you have Foxtel, you have to pay like $60 something a month when I can just pay $15 and get everything I get on Binge. And then just because you really would only have Foxtel if you care about sport, let's be honest here. So I had that. And then we also have we do have Apple TV, and I'm sure, it was at the time, I was like, that's stupid. That's a stupid marketing idea where they just gave a free year of subscription. But it was actually, now in hindsight, quite intelligent, because the year made me get access to shows like Ted Lasso and now Severance and Mythic Quest, where I was like, oh, I really like a lot of shows on Apple TV Plus. I might as well keep paying for it now that the year's up.
Exactly.
And then we also have, let me check my apps, because there's just so many now. Now it's almost gotten ridiculous where there's just so many. So yeah, those ones. And then we have basically and Prime, obviously. Yeah. And then we have basically like free to air TV in streaming service form, where the difference is you have to watch ads here and there. And like, for example, that's where we have like Doctor Who, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Good Doctor's another one, Resident Alien is on there. So it's like again, mishmashes of like random contracts, and that you have to but it's free, so who cares? I'll watch it. I won't watch it on free to air because I will not sit through 45 minutes of ads for 45 minutes of content, but I will sit through 10 minutes of ads essentially across the episode. So that's kind of the idea. And just to surmise that nobody watches, only old people and dogs left at home alone watch free to air television. They're the only ones. No one watches free to air television or what is actually on network TV right now. It's all streaming services pretty much.
So Alice, we've laid a lot of groundwork here, and in terms of that, but what do you think is your ideal release for a television?
Yeah, absolutely. And you just heard my dog bark just very, very quickly, but I do have 2 puppies here. So you might hear that here.
Also has some strong feelings.
Yes, exactly. He's like, I have an opinion. So I've been thinking about this. I really actually think I enjoy the drop 3 episodes and then week to week. Having said that, there is a limit to the week to week. I think 13 is your max. Honestly, though, in terms of number of episodes, I should say, honestly, though, I do think you should be able to tell a full story in 8 to 10 episodes of 40-minute television. If it's, in the rather 20 to 30-minute time frame, then sure, maybe expand to the 13 episodes. But I have just really liked the 3 episodes drop, because I think 3 episodes, especially if it's a new TV show, gives you exactly an idea of how the story's progressing, how the tone's progressing, how things have changed from the pilot. Because you can, guys, I don't know if needs to hear this, but you cannot judge a TV show by its pilot. The pilot will always be not always, but let's say most of the time, the worst episode, because that's just the one they use to sell in the idea. Then after that, you get episode 2 and episode 3, where they might actually have budget, proper budget. They might actually have a more through storyline. And those are the ones that kind of give you an idea. So for example, I just watched the first 3 episodes last week of The Dropout, when that dropped, ironically enough to use that term. And that gave me a great idea of how, the show's going to progress, because it kind of shows the beginnings of this eventual scam artist, essentially played by Amanda Seyfried. Gave you an idea of the story, gave you an idea of the characters, and it made me go, yeah, you know what? I will continue that. And then I do like the week to week drop of 1 episode, not this random, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 1. I do like the week to week, because I think when you do a binge drop, I'm just like, oh, great. I was catching up on all my TV and now I've got another 30 episodes I need to catch up on, It's so disheartening to see that happen. And then I need to make time for that. And I will always make time for the episodes that are coming week to week before I make time for the episodes that are fully realized seasons out. And so those will just wait and wait and wait until I have that time. And so the week to week allows me, because a 45-minute commitment or even an hour-long commitment is very different to a 16 or 13-hour long commitment. Yeah. And so me finding the time for that, but still keeping up with the story, is much more appealing as a viewer. On top of that, it actually allows excitement. It allows you to take part in conversations, to read recap articles. I don't care about reading recap articles for binge seasons. Why would I need to read? I'll just watch the next episode, Yeah. I don't need insights. I know I can find out what's going to happen in the finale by just going to the last episode. And so I just think it allows that conversation and the excitement, where I think this is a famous example, is the whole Stranger Things, the last season of Stranger Things. It dropped. It was enormous for about a week and a half. and then nobody talked about it. And now all of a sudden this new season's come out, and it feels like, I know it was a couple of years ago, but it feels even longer since the last season. I barely remember anything that happened in it. And that's another thing. The memory doesn't hold as strongly.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, my preferred is the 3 at the start and then week to week until the end of the season at the maximum of 13 episodes.
Mine is very similar. And the only reason for me personally where I'm not the hugest fan of like the dropping of 3 episodes, and to be fair, I don't give up on a show. like I'll at least get through the first season of something, even though, well, the one show that I've given up on this year was I was watching the show Fairview, and I'm just like, this is just too much for me. I watched like the first 5 episodes. I'm just like, no, I don't feel like I need to finish this. But the thing is, for me, it's like, especially Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Because Hulu likes to drop things on a Wednesday. Disney, ever since Loki, Disney Plus likes to drop things on a Wednesday. HBO Max loves dropping things on Thursday. And then Prime and Apple love dropping things on Friday. Say that Prime and Apple both drop a new show on a Friday, and then I'm like, I have 6 hours of things to watch. And that's the only reason why I'm not the hugest fan of like the dropping of 3 episodes is for me, busy and trying to consume more things than a normal person would. It makes it more challenging for me to like balance everything and try to squeeze stuff in. But like in general, I do like the idea of trying to lay the groundwork a bit.
Yeah.
And giving you a sense. And like, I'm even more of like today, the Last Days of Ptolemy Gray came out on Apple TV Plus, at least here, with Samuel L. Jackson in it. It's the first 2 episodes. So like, I'm down for that. I'll watch these 2 episodes. I think I have like 15 minutes left in the first one. And then I'll probably be watching them as I'm editing this later.
Yeah.
So like, I enjoy
worth
that.
checking out, by the way. It was I was curious, but I'm not sure.
Far, it's like, so far it feels a lot like, you know, this is an old man who has dementia.
Right.
And it's Samuel L. Jackson. So like, I enjoy watching Samuel L. Jackson, so at least it has that. I don't know if anything's really kicked up in terms of like intriguing me narratively quite yet at this point. But like, you know, I'm getting a feel for it. But you know, I really enjoyed the weekly, like 1 episode a week, because like then like I keep a track of what new episodes I have each day, each week. And, you know, I get through my shows and some of them stand out more than others. Like, especially the past 4 weeks, I really enjoyed watching the 4th season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And because that show is great. And it left me like, I can't wait for season 5. But the thing is, like, that's the big point is I also prioritize weekly shows over binging. And, you know, like, I think I watched Sex Education's most recent season, like, a good month and a half after it came out, because I'm just like, I'll get around to it at this point.
I'm only just doing The Great now, which is, I have to say, watching The Great while everything's going on in the world with the country that The Great is set in is a very strange experience. Let me tell you. But I'm only getting around to The Great season 2 now because of that exact reason.
I felt like The Great came out weekly last time.
It might have, but I think it did the like bulk, and just at the time, it was just, there was so much going on and so much came out that I was just like, all right, I've got single episodes.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't even gotten around to The Great season 2, so that just even shows. And like, generally, like, I have one binging show that, like, if I have time to watch something and I've caught up on my weekly shows for the day, then I'll watch it. Like, I went through and rewatched all of South Park. And now I'm caught up and I'm not watching it weekly on season 25. So they just had a whole entire episode making fun of teenagers and airsoft culture.
Oh, gosh.
Yep. But in terms of, you know, I really do like the I prefer the weekly thing. And, there's nothing more exciting than like, oh, it's Wednesday. I get to go home and watch Pam and Tommy. And like that just ended this week, or like especially on a Wednesday with like all the Marvel or Star Wars shows. I'm like, it's Book of Boba Fett Day, or it's Mandalorian Day, and
soon it'll be Moon Knight Day. Yeah.
And every Thursday became a big thing for me because Peacemaker. I'm like, I can't wait to go home and watch Peacemaker later.
Peacemaker is the only show where I actually just watched the opening titles every week. I didn't skip them. It's the only show I've skipped every single. I watched the opening titles in the first episode of like each season, and then I just skip them. But Peacemaker is the one where I was like, I can't skip this. This is too of it. I'm too entertained. Yeah, it's so, and you know what? It's not too long. It's always fun. I don't know. That was brilliant. I will just say that. Yeah.
But like, and this is an interesting thing too, because like, there's certain things, like if you watch things on like an actual cable or network television, it's either you're watching it live that night or you're catching up on it the next day. And there's certain things like, if I'm watching it with my fiance, it's definitely happening the next day because she goes to bed at 9. If it's like an HBO thing and I'm watching it on my own, like I watched Euphoria Sunday night every week, but Righteous Gemstones was a Monday one because you watched that with me. And that made me so happy coming home every Monday because it's a Monday. Mondays suck.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, I got Righteous Gemstones when I get home. And because I had to work a really extra long Monday, I didn't get to watch Righteous Gemstones until Tuesday. And I'm like, and it was the finale. I'm like,
no,
I want to watch it so bad. But and that's the thing, you get that excitement. I don't get excitement for binge things because it's just like, I'm just gonna binge.
I'm exhausted. And then you go, okay, well, I really enjoyed that. Oh, I have to wait 2 years for the next season. Because that's another thing. It shortens the in-between time. So when I watched The Witcher, the most recent season, I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. And 2023, great.
And then you're just
and it's going to be end of 2023 too. So it's just, I was just like, but come on, can't you just film it? Why do you have to take so long to film it? And this is the same with Stranger Things. Why do you have to take so long to film it? I thought you already had a plan. You already had a story and you have the budget.
Netflix has way too much content.
It is. And so I'm just sitting here like, great. Well, now I'm excited, but my excitement's going to disappear. And then,
And that's another point too. If you do weekly things, you need less content.
Yes.
Netflix needs constant content because you binge something, is like, what's next? And then it's just like, Netflix has to pump out things every day. And it's just constantly buying things from other countries. Like I just got a screener for Black Crab that comes out next week, which is a Noomi Rapace film from Sweden. But like they have to buy all these like international market things because like they need help putting out content on a weekly basis.
Exactly. So Netflix here also has obviously some deals with, again, like CBS and like network TV, because for example, Riverdale, Star Trek Discovery, Snowpiercer, they all for us air on Netflix. So the Netflix show drop all at once, but then the ones that aren't Netflix show, like Snowpiercer, has been coming out every week.
Interesting.
So, which the thing is, I'm hot take. I think Netflix is the best UI of any of the streaming services. So I am happy to sit down and watch, like, use the UI. I think Amazon has the worst, by the way. It is awful.
Because they don't need to care. It's Amazon.
Yeah, I know. God, and there's just so much on there. And sometimes I just want to look for a movie and flick through it. That's what I mean. When you flick through Netflix, it's more pleasant than when I have to flick through options on Amazon, because some of them are like $2, like how on earth did this end up on here sort of movies. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But so sometimes, I'll go onto my Netflix and there'll be the new episode of Snowpiercer sitting there ready for me to watch. And I'm like, yes, let's watch that, but then there'll be like soon there's going to be the new Bridgerton, and I'm just going to be like, oh, all right. Let me find some time. Or how Cheer season 2 came out. And then there's some shows where it's like you need to watch it, or you feel that you need to watch it when it's come out, because if you don't, there's no point in watching it. For example, with Cheer season 2, if I'd waited months to see that, this isn't like Cheer season 1 where it became huge and like, you know, everyone was talking about it for months. Cheer season 2 or almost just happened for some reason. Like, I don't even know. It was just like, this is the aftermath of the success of the first season. So I was interested for that reason. But I know if I hadn't started watching it as soon as it came out, I probably would have just like not watched it, because who cares after, you know, half a month, because it's too based in reality and in what's going on at the time. And so that's also a part of it. If the show is like that, the binge thing, you have to make the time at the time. Otherwise you can't just watch it whenever you want and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
And so at least things like Bridgerton and Stranger Things and The Witcher, like they're so within their own world that you can just watch that. I can put it off for months and still enjoy it. But then there's also something to be said about not being part of the conversation. Like when WandaVision was coming out, it was so much fun to be part of that conversation.
Who's
that was
Mephisto?
Mephisto, Quicksilver, you know, what is the end? Agatha is you know, Catherine Harkness, Agatha, what's happening? Who's actually doing this?
All along.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. But these were all so much fun to be part of while it was happening. And sure, it's fun maybe to go back and reread them after the fact, but you can't be like, oh, that's my theory or whatever it is, because by this point, everybody knows what happens, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the same with binging. You have the people that it drops, they immediately watch it all. And then they already know what's going to happen. They talk about what's happened. And then you have just got to kind of like get there. And by that point, you're already like, I'm not excited because I already know what's going to happen by the final episode, you know? So there's also that.
And I hate getting things spoiled for me.
Yeah.
Hate. And it's like a minefield. Like when there's like a new episode of something, like, I hate you, Screen Rant. I'm coming at you hard.
Yeah.
Because like I had Cad Bane ruined for me.
Really?
And I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine what my reaction would have been if I had no idea he was in that episode. Right. But like I did know he was in the episode. I still freaked out when I saw that specter coming through the desert. I'm like, it's
Cad Bane. Yeah.
But like, and it's just like, because you know, you have those Leo from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood moments.
Yeah.
And like pointing.
Yeah.
That's
the excitement. That's the excitement. Exactly. So, and you can only really like have that if it is more week to week. Yeah. Because people respect it more. They'll give you a little bit more time. But binge, it's like, let's talk about what happened at the end of the episode, at the end of the season. What's the big twist? It's like, well, now I know there's a big twist. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And like, I know Upload, which that was a show that popped up on Amazon Prime that I loved. And the second season just came out. Yeah. Here, I'm just like, well, hopefully I don't hear anybody talking about it because I don't know when I'm going to get to it.
I've got so much else to catch up on. Yeah, exactly. I found that I looked at my thing and I was like, wait, I only had 80 episodes of things to catch up on. Now I have 101. Why do I have 101? A day's passed. And then I was like, Upload came out. Yeah. Right. Well, let me catch up on the new episode of Severance, the new episode of Raised by Wolves, the new episodes of Astrid and Lily Save the World, the new episode, like, let me catch up on Wellington Paranormal. And then after I've finished The Great, after I've finished all the other episodes that have binges that came out, I'll then get to Upload.
I have to ask you a question. Do you get Wellington Paranormal, like, where it's actually at right now?
Yeah, we're on season 4, I think. Is that the new season? Let me look. Yeah, season 4. So we've just gotten episode 4 of season 4.
I lost my mind when HBO got the first 2 seasons of that. I'm like, I got so excited, and when they're over, it's just like I love how people just tweet at Jermaine Clement, just being like, "When season 3 and 4 coming to America?"
Yeah.
It's just like when.
Yeah. Hey, we've always been on the back foot, so
Well,
you guys can deal with it for once.
and I understand, and I get that. So like, because like that's it. I love that show. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great
And
because
with the
it's
whole
everything you love about What We Do in the Shadows, but it's like the really New Zealand humor element of it that hasn't been. I think What We Do in the Shadows, the show, is one of the best shows on television right now. But Wellington Paranormal gets to do that humor completely uncensored in a way.
yeah, because it definitely feels a lot more like the film.
Yeah.
Which and oh my god, and I love that sensibility. Like it just registers with me so well. I'm just like the two of them dealing with all the
They're so
random
great.
stuff. So great.
Yeah, Minogue. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, season 4's been really funny too. And I love that they brought in like the head of police, and he's been such a great character. And this season has like a bird woman and then like a jacket that makes everyone cool. But like they keep fighting over it because they all cool. And it's so great. Like season 4's, it just manages to be funny. And I would say there's like a scale of this humor where you've got this, which is completely unmitigated, like unnetworkized, and then you've got, I feel like Our Flags Mean Death is kind of like the more cleaned version. Not to say it's not as like, it's still funny, but it's definitely, I feel like What We Do in the Shadows is in the middle, and then Our Flag Means Death definitely feels more network to me. Like, I don't know what it is about it. I'm still enjoying it, but it's just, it's not as funny, I'm finding.
Because I've watched the first 6 episodes at this point.
I've only seen the first 3.
Okay.
You got to give me a mo.
Be prepared for a lot more Taika Waititi.
Yeah, well, I was very... I'm very excited for that. Is he good?
I love Rhys Darby, and the fact that he gets to shine in this show, it's like, I'm the gentleman pirate. And it's just like, it's so perfect because, he has a small role in What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, the whole, we're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yeah.
And I love Flight of the Conchords. And him as Murray.
Rhys Darby's so great. And also he's really funny. He has a lot of small roles in like all of Taika Waititi's movie. I'm waiting for him to have his MCU like debut. You know what I mean? Like what's his cameo in Thor: Love and Thunder gonna be?
If he pops up in there, I'm definitely Leoing out and be like, look.
Yeah. I can see that happening. I can definitely see that happening, especially like Thor: Love and Thunder. But yeah, like I really enjoy that. I'm enjoying this like Taika Waititi cinematic universe that's happening. I love the power he's getting in Hollywood. It's so great because I love his like filmmaking. It's so different.
Yeah, and like Rhys Darby popping up even in Jumanji is like, welcome to Jumanji.
Yeah.
And just like him as the NPC guy is great. So I'm gonna run through here and just give everybody listening a sense of what presently I'm watching on a week-to-week basis, and I think this will shape why I don't get around to binging things a whole lot. So like I'm gonna start with Sunday. So like I have a note in my notes app on my phone. So Sunday, Killing Eve, which I was just having this conversation with my fiance because she's never watched the show before, but like this sexual tension in this show, I'm just like, when is something gonna happen? And this is, I'm pretty sure this is last season, and I think that's okay. I started watching Super Pumped, that Showtime show, which is about Uber. It has Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty just started. I'm enjoying Super Pumped enough. It's that kind of thing where it's just like, ever since Social Network was a thing, we need to have this like behind the scenes of like every.
Yeah, this is so strange because Apple TV's about to release We Crashed too, which is the same thing but about WeWork.
So just I think ever since the Social Network happened, it's just like there's a whole entire genre of like even The Dropout is that same basic kind of idea.
Yeah.
And Adam McKay's new show about the Lakers just started this past week on HBO. So I watched that. Love John C. Reilly. So that's my Sundays right now. Mondays, I watch Bob's Burgers in the Great North with my fiance because we don't get to it Sunday night. And then The Gilded Age, I watch Monday night, which is American Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's literally by the guy who did Downton Abbey.
What? Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, I love Carrie Coon, and like I'm really enjoying her in that show. Tuesdays, How I Met Your Father, which
I refused. I saw as soon as I saw the reviews, I was like, nah. If it had good reviews, I would have done it.
It feels like an uninspired, like 20 somethings, 30 somethings, comedy.
Yeah.
The End Game, which has Marina Baccarin in it, which I feel like that's the main thing that has me going. Wednesday, The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, because Disney's just bringing back everything. Abbott Elementary and Blackish, because those both come out Tuesday nights on ABC. The Thing About Pam just started with Renee Zellweger in it, which that seems interesting after the first episode. Thursdays are Flag Means Death, South Park, Raised by Wolves, Bel Air, which is still weird to watch.
Nah, I refused. When I found out that show was being made, I was like, I will never watch that. This is the stupidest idea. I'm like mad that this show exists. There are so many other stories you could tell. You did not need to make a gritty it's a joke. Like, it's such a joke of a show. Sorry, you triggered something. I'm just like, I'm so mad this show exists. So we don't need a gritty Bel Air. We do not need it.
We got The Dropout, like we were talking about. That Dirty Black Bag just started an AMC Plus, because that's a streaming service too. Which that's a spaghetti western. Friday, Central Park. I really like Single Drunk Female. That's been coming out. That's a network show, a network television show. Servants, which my biggest thing about Servants, like, where the hell's this show going? But it's creepy every week. Suspicion, I'm not the hugest fan of that, honestly. Something about it I'm just not clicking with. Severance, that is a crazy show.
Dude, I haven't seen the new episode yet. I haven't seen it yet, but oh my goodness. It's so good.
Dicktown, which, because I don't know if you've ever watched Cake, which is like an anthology show from FX. I'm a huge FX fan. Well, they spun off a skit from it, which is now its own show called Dicktown. And then The Last Days of Ptolemy Gray, and then I don't have anything on Saturday. And then I have shows that I watch with my fiance, and we still need to finish the 4th season of Cobra Kai. Murderville, the new one that just dropped on Netflix. Kid Cosmic, we need to catch up on. Space Force Season 2, The Cuphead Show, and Joe versus Carol.
No, I'm not watching that.
Because Tiger King will not die.
I'm just like, why? People can just watch Tiger King. I mean, I'm one of the few that just never got into Tiger King either, because I was like, I know everything about it. Like, I don't need to watch.
That's why you watch it, because it's trash.
Yeah, but I was just like, especially because at that time I had so much to catch up on. Well, I feel like I should, I'll go through and give you an idea of what I'm watching at the moment, week to week, and then what I have to catch up on. So, okay, I'll go to Monday. What's coming out? So we've got Would I Lie to You? So the British quiz show is now in Australia. So I've been watching that. The Snowpiercer show, which it's interesting enough. You know what I mean?
It's on my watch list. I love the film so much that I've considered watching it.
So much better. And I think it's because of what it does and how it's done, but it's not bad. Like, Daveed Diggs is really good. Jennifer Connelly's really good. Sean Bean's eating the scenery. It really screws with me though, because there's a main character in it who looks exactly like the main character from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And I'm like, she is her, but she's not, and it always like screws.
So it's
with my
not
head.
Rachel Brosnahan.
It's not right. It's not her, but it's a different actress. It looks exactly like her, and she's like a main character in it.
Weird.
Anyway, Snowpiercer. Now there are certain shows that like are in my week to week, but I can't watch them because I have to wait for them to come here to Australia, like The Good Doctor and Outlander. So I'll just have to wait for those to be finished, and then I'll be able to. They'll come to Netflix essentially. Wednesday starts Young Rock. So I'll be watching that. It was fun. I really enjoyed. I mean, I really liked Fresh Off the Boat. So I'm really enjoying this one too.
Is that from the same creator?
Yeah, it's by Nunchaka Khan. Yeah, I'm probably butchered that. I do apologize, but yeah, and that's why Randall Park is in it, kind of. So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that does make sense. I love Randall Park.
Oh, he's so great. He's another one of my like Reese Darby, Taika Waititi, where I'm like, I love him. I want him in more stuff. Seeing him actually become like a character in WandaVision was awesome. I have to say, I want more Jimmy Woo. Yes. Everybody does. Then on Wednesday, so that was Snowpiercer and Good Doctors on Tuesday. Wednesday is Young Rock, Wellington Paranormal, of course, which is a great way to start my mornings, I have to say. And then I have both normal and celebrity Gogglebox, because I don't know, there are certain trash television that I will watch because why not? And I enjoy watching Gogglebox because it gives me an idea of what is on television without me having like free to air, without me having to watch free to air. That's the bit I like about it. It's like sampling it. And then sometimes I'll be like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll add that. So I've been watching that. Resident Alien on Thursday, which is so great. This new show, Astrid and Lily Save the World, which has been a really interesting one because I'm enjoying it. Like, it's not perfect, it's not amazing, but I'm enjoying it. But it's gotten really awful ratings on IMDb. I'm talking like it's rated 4.3 on IMDb. It does not deserve that. I think that it's really angered some people because the main two characters are like overweight. That's kind of like, and that's part of, where their character, but it's kind of like, basically the show's these two best friends. They're two overweight best friends, and they just accidentally open a portal one night after they've been bullied and let out a bunch of monsters into the world. And this good monster comes through and is like, hey, you have to defeat the monsters and close the portal, otherwise your universe is going to die. And so every week they have to defeat a monster and and like take a body part and put it in this thing and put it in and help close the portal. And so it's kind of like Monster of the Week, but there is a storyline. Yeah. And it's like the monsters are basically what they do accentuates adolescent like problems. So for example, last week it was a monster that kept puffing up people's egos to the point where if their ego was too big, their heads would explode. And so they had to take down the monster. Otherwise, everyone in high school who had too big of an ego, which was most of the people, would die. And the thing is, they're not like, they have really crap superpowers too. Like their superpowers is like one of them has one really strong leg, and then the other one can like smell and see stronger than most other people.
Interesting.
Like it's not like they have like just normal super strength or anything, but then they have to kind of just figure things out and take down the monsters without really any like that intense supernatural help. So it's like fun. I'm enjoying it. The characters are nice, but it feels like it's really offended a lot of people for some reason. I don't know why, but I really recommend checking it out if you kind of like Buffy, but not as good as Buffy, but still like a fun Buffy-esque show of set today where the main characters are overweight, and that's like a whole extra element of the storyline. Also on Thursdays, Our Flag Means Death, Raised by Wolves, which is just, I don't even know. That's just been the weirdest thing. Then I've got Star Trek Discovery on Thursday. Then on Friday, I've got The Dropout, which I am very enjoying. Amanda Seyfried is insane in that. Severance, like you mentioned. On Friday, the first 3 episodes of We Crashed comes out, which I'm like, Jared Leto, but Anne Hathaway. So we'll see how we go there. And then finally, apparently Riverdale also comes out this week. So RIP is what I'll say to me. But the shows I'm currently also watching that like essentially are all out, but I'm catching up on. Oh, and also Star Trek Picard. That's another one that I'm watching currently, which I watched the first season with my partner, but he is very into old Trek and he hates all of new Trek, but he was really into Next Gen. So I was like, well, this is Picard from Next Gen. So he's like, all right. So we watched the first, he hated it. He hated it so much. So now I have to watch second season on my own. He thinks that they're too much into action now. So, which I get it. But yeah, I'm the ones I need to catch up. So for people's reference, I use this app called TV Tracker. These are all the shows I'm currently catching up on. So I've got the seasons for A Discovery of Witches, the new Disenchantment, The Good Doctor, like I mentioned, Graham Norton Show, The Great, Lock and Key, Pam and Tommy got to finish that final episode, The Shrink Next Door, The Space Force, Station 11, Upload. Yeah. An Upload. So that's everything on my list.
You just reminded me of a couple of shows. I'm like, oh crap, I need to get around to watching the new season of that.
Yeah.
Like Disenchantment. I need to get around to watching that.
They do the part 1, part 2 stupidity, I have to say. And I will like that. I hate that. Just make it season 1 and season 2. I don't understand why you have to split one season into 2. And I find that only really happens with network shows, like this, even though Disenchantment is Netflix, it feels like because it's made by Matt Groening and, the people who did Simpsons, they're too used to that now. So they can't break the habit almost.
Well, and it's just like, why is Ozark broken into 2 parts the last season? Just finish the show. Or just have 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why not?
I don't mind. Yeah. I'm sure the actors won't mind. More money, more solid like income.
Maybe that's a thing. Maybe they could be like, well, it's just 1 season. You only have to get paid for 1 season.
Yeah, I guess so.
Business models. But now, Alice, what are the things that you wish television would stop doing?
I talked about this in a SiftPop writers room. My biggest pet peeve on television is when a pilot season ends on a major cliffhanger, aka it doesn't finish the story. That is such lazy storytelling. Unless you are guaranteed a second season, which you almost never are. There are so many shows that I was really, really enjoying, and then they ended on a cliffhanger, and I either don't know if we're going to get another season or it's been cancelled. A couple of examples are Teenage Bounty Hunters and Warrior Nun. They both ended on massive cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Teenage Bounty Hunters got cancelled because, and Cowboy Bebop. So there you go. Sorry, there's 3. So 2 of them have been cancelled, like Cowboy Bebop and Teenage Bounty Hunters. And Warrior Nun, I think, did get renewed for a second season, but I have no idea what happened to that. I don't know if COVID I don't know what's happened there. But the point is, you cannot, especially when it's like in the middle of a scene, like the way that Warrior Nun ends, it's been enough. It's been like a year or so now. So, or if not 2, it ends in the middle of the battle where the whole season. It's also got another one of my pet peeves, which is You're the Chosen One. I don't want to be the chosen one, the show. Right. And so the whole show is like, them rejecting their awesome which is that show. And it's her rejecting her awesome superpowers and not accepting it until literally the last episode. So you finally have this happen, and this big boss fight's about to happen with the main villain who finally gets realized, and episode ends. And I'm just like, are you serious right now? You cannot do that. I hate it. And especially when I'm like, I might never have this sated. I'm going to sit in limbo forever now because you were too lazy to give your show an ending, just in case you didn't get a season 2. And so I hate that so much.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that. So like, that makes it confusing to me sometimes. Like, is this the end of the season?
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I love, like, Apple tells you this is the season finale. Like, at least I know, like, this has a terrible ending. And I'm not waiting for another episode to come out next week. And you want to hear a funny story. So did you hop on did Quibi release in Australia?
I didn't even look it up because I was just like, no.
So I got Quibi when that launched. and I was on the Quibi train for at least a couple months. I talked about it in one of my YouTube videos. I complained that, like, it's tough to keep track of like when the shows end, how many episodes. Not a week later, they started popping up this episode out of this many episodes. I'm like,
did they hear me?
well, because the thing is, they reached out to me and asked to use one of my tweets as promotion. So like, I know they were watching my content, and I'm like, wait a minute. Because like that's something that honestly I think would be appreciated. That's just a small thing that I think would make things a lot nicer. Because like you have to kind of rely on IMDb and stuff like that to be like, is this accurate?
Well, you want another funny story? So the new, actually another one that I think I'm watching week to week is Ghosts, right? But it's not. I don't know when the next episode's coming out because it's had the weirdest release model where it was like week, stop for like 3 weeks. Oh, now we're back for like 2 weeks. Oh no, now we've stopped. Oh, there actually might be more, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, is it done? Because the episode kind of felt like it's a comedy, so they never really have massive finales. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's done. And I was writing the review for it. And so I was like, cool, all right, it's definitely done, right? I was like, great. I looked at IMDb, didn't have it. It had a season 2 planned, but nothing else for this season. My TV tracker didn't have anything coming up. I wrote my review. I submitted it. It published. A month later, more episodes for season 1 come out. And I'm just like, what? wait. And it's just like normal episodes. And I was just like, well, this is weird now because I've got a review that's out there, but apparently I only watched half of the season. So
I feel like most people put reviews out for like 3 episodes.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Which is that's a pet peeve that I have against people watching television. I hate that. It's just like, I don't go and watch the first act of a movie and put out my review and be like, hey, these are my thoughts on the movie. But like, that's such a challenge too. I'm like, here's a perfect example. So like, I've been watching a couple sitcoms, and sitcoms are sitcoms. Like, they don't like, sometimes you don't know, like, this is the end of something, and like you don't know exactly how many episodes the season's going to be. I had a safe bets that Grand Crew and American Auto ended after 10 episodes this week for their first season. Grand Crew definitely felt like a season finale, and I'm like, okay, I feel pretty confident that this is the season finale. American Auto, I'm like, I think this is a season finale, but I can't be positive. If they would just be like, this is this episode out of this many episodes, I'm like, okay, now I know, kind of thing. And it would just make that easier to process, because like with a Blackish, this is the last season and I love the show and I want to emotionally prepare for when I'm watching that last episode, and like it just wasn't on this week. And then I checked the TV guide because like The Bachelor had like a special 2-hour thing this week. I'm like, oh, so that's why it wasn't on this week. And the week before it wasn't on because of the State of the Union address. With President Biden. I'm like, see, and this is why I hate network television, because all this BS gets in the way. And I love weekly releases, but I hate network television because anything can mess it up.
Yes.
Like Sunday shows always get messed up because of football. It's like magically disappear for a month and a half during the football playoffs. And I'm just like, I want to have access to my show. And that's why I enjoy it on weekly on streaming, because like it comes out and you have a whole entire week to watch it.
Yeah, so exactly.
Like, I can watch it. Like, I don't have to watch it Sunday night. I could also watch the football game and then watch this later.
Exactly.
But I think the biggest thing for me, and we touched on this, is like, I hate the part 1, part 2 BS. It's stupid. Just call them different seasons, different series, whatever the hell you want to call them. But like, perfect example, Central Park just came back.
Yeah.
It's still season 2.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like, but
why
it's
didn't you
been
just
like
say
a
that
year.
the 8 episodes that came out before was season 2, and then this is season 3?
Yeah.
And
especially because the two parts have like their own arc. It's like when Agents of Shield was coming out, and when it started getting good, it decided to start splitting its seasons into two. They did a part 1, part 2, and it got good, I'd say, from like season 3, basically when they started introducing the is it the Immortals? That's not right. The Inhumans into the storylines. And that's when it kind of started getting good. But then they literally, like, it was the same season, but it was completely different storylines. So much so there was new like titles, animations, like completely, like the arc had ended.
And that's
there was
network
a new
television
arc,
for you.
new like characters, new everything, new motivations. But it was season 4 still. And I was just like, okay, so we were dealing with a robot, and now we're dealing with Ghost Rider. Okay, like it was so, and that's a network TV thing. And if it's something like with the Nevers, where COVID impacted it, and so they had to just kind of like COVID and other things, and so they had to kind of like make part 1 and then come back later on and do part 2. That makes sense. But if it's not a worldwide pandemic, do not do that.
Well, oh, you mean the Nevers, when it was like the last episode of the season where everybody was tweeting, did they put the right show on?
Yeah.
Because I remember
I was watching it. I was like, did they upload the wrong show?
I literally went on Twitter to be like, somebody has to be tweeting about this right now. And I'm like, I'm not the only one that's confused. What's going on here? But yeah, I remember the biggest thing, because like, so I was a OG fan of J.J. Abrams going all the way back to Alias. And I loved that show. I watched that every week when that was on. And the last season, like at one point ended, and Sydney Bristow stranded on a cargo ship in the middle of the ocean, and it just like ends, and it's just like, what? And then it's months and months and months and months. And then ABC's like, and returning for the final part of the last season of Alias. I'm like, wait a minute. And then it came back for like, I think maybe like 10 more episodes to finish the series. And I'm like, and apparently it's because Jennifer Garner was actually pregnant. So like, because she was pregnant in the show, and she was definitely actually pregnant. So that they took this hiatus, but like, on some level, do they need to keep us in the loop on stuff like this? But it would make it easier and not confuse the hell out of us for being like,
or even at the end, just be like, hold tight for X amount of months, we'll come back. Just let us know, because otherwise I'm gonna be shocked. Like when a new episode of Ghost came out, and I was like, all right, guess that this is back on my radar. I'd put it aside for a year, but okay.
Well, and there's certain shows that was doing crap like that where I'm just like, I'll just binge this later. I'm going to stop watching on a weekly basis because it takes up too much energy for me to try to keep track of the show. And that's annoying. And so I definitely hate the part 1, part 2. And I hate the random chunking weekly. It's just like, I get you're trying to
You can't prepare mentally for it. You're just like, wait, what?
I know you're trying to like, this happened with so many HBO Max shows like Hacks. I'm like, and the flight attendant. And I'm just like, how many episodes are you releasing this week? And I know they're trying to do like a mix of both things. And I'm like, well, I don't like it. Like, either choose one. Like, choose one. Like, either drop them all. And I feel like streaming at this point, besides Netflix, obviously, because basically the only weekly show that I've ever watched on Netflix was the League of Legends show, which they chunked that. That came out 3 episodes every Saturday. And Arcane blew up. Like, people loved it. And, but like, it's funny because some of these streaming services are like, hey, so some of these shows we like to put out weekly. Some of them we just drop all at once. You can tell which ones we care about more. And one of the streaming services that I have a bone to pick with is Peacock, because Peacock doesn't always release them the same time every week. I think they mess up sometimes, and I'm just like, this is why I'm one of 5 customers of yours, because you suck. They got like infinitely more people just because WWE Network is a part of Peacock now. But before that, I'm pretty sure I was one of 5 people that actually paid for Peacock.
Well, we don't even have Peacock. So the Peacock just kind of comes out on like our cable streaming service. And then, like I said, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is on the free channel here. And then we have another one on it's just, we don't even have Peacock. We somehow got Paramount Plus, which I think it's because it's owned by Amazon, but we didn't get Peacock. So I don't know.
And Paramount Plus, aka the Taylor Sheridan and Star Trek streaming service, because I feel like 90% of the content is a Taylor Sheridan show or Star Trek show. Because which
is funny because they haven't done that with the Star Treks here. They've kept them wherever they originally were. So Paramount Plus only has like Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol and like Yellow Jackets, and it's like, I'm not gonna pay for.
That's funny because they're on different. Like Last Symbol was a Peacock one year. Okay. But like all the Star Trek stuff here in the US, it's like they have Prodigy, they have Discovery, they have Picard. Those are all on Paramount Plus. And then you have like Yellowstone plays on Paramount Plus, and 1883 plays on Paramount Plus, and Mayor of Kingstown is just like, Taylor Sheridan's just like pumping out like everything for you. Like my dad and my stepmom love Yellowstone. Love Yellowstone.
That seems like the target audience.
Yes. Middle-aged people love Yellowstone. And I love Yellowstone TikTok videos of people like after 1 week of watching Yellowstone, next week have like a button up tucked in your jeans. Next week you have like one of those vests and a cowboy hat. Just
exactly.
But in general, it's just like, I'm glad that the pendulum's swinging back from just binging, because obviously Netflix shook the world up. And because like, I don't think the network television model was really that effective. And I think a lot of younger audiences were like, I can't handle 23 weeks spread out over 9 months of trying to watch this show. And Netflix changed that. And they,
but they swung too much in the other direction.
And they fell into like, it must be 13 episodes. No, it doesn't. And you can feel the ones that shouldn't have been. And
that's what I mean. I think like 8 to 13 based on where your story, honestly, most could just be like, I've also been enjoying where some have just been 7 or 6. I'm like, great, I'm loving this. I will commit to 6 hours. I'll commit to 7 hours. You can tell a story, a well-rounded, very advanced story in that, or a developed story in that time. 13, you're right. You can feel like episodes. I feel like sometimes it's episodes 10, 11. You're just like, oh, nothing's happened.
It was all the Marvel shows. Like that really got me, because like how much I love Daredevil. It could have been Trip. Could have just been like Alan Tudyk. Just tighten. You just need to tighten it.
Exactly.
Can't tell you lose weight. Just tighten.
Tighten it. But when you can tell they've learnt their lesson, because WandaVision was 9 episodes, but a bunch of them were like 20 minutes long, so that with like 8 minutes of credits for 15
some reason. 15 minutes.
For some making you sit there going, oh, well, there's going to be an after credit scene. And then there wasn't. But that's fine. But then since then, everything's been 6, which is perfect.
Which Falcon and Winter Soldier wasn't supposed to be. But COVID really messed that up. And you can in hindsight, you can tell you can feel that messed up. But like Loki felt like it had needed to be. I know people complain complain about Mandalorian being like, there's just a bunch of filler episodes now. I'm just like, it's okay for him to go on adventures, right?
That's like the point of the show is that he goes on adventures, and then also there's like stuff that happens in the last few episodes that has kind of been trickling in here and there. That's what makes the Mandalorian amazing, is that I am enjoying every episode because it's so different. And then it's like, oh yeah, that did happen in episode 3. Now it's coming back in the sea. Oh, sweet. Look at these returning characters. Mandalorian's doing that great. But again, I'm enjoying Mandalorian, especially because they understand that not every episode needs to be 55 minutes, which I have to say, that is another thing. When did that become the norm, where every single TV show has to have 55 minutes to over an hour long episode? I feel like if it's not a comedy now, it's guaranteed to be within that time frame. And it's really annoying because because that means that 2 episodes is more than a movie length.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should be.
Well, and I think HBO has a lot to do with that, because HBO shows, the dramas are like an hour and 5 minutes. And I'm like some weeks I'm watching like Gilded Age, and I'm just like, does this need to be an hour?
It doesn't. Honestly, I feel like 45, you should be able to tell. Look, if you want to make it a 47-minute episode, so you have 2 minutes for credits, whatever. 45, you should be able to tell your story in that time. Peacemaker did it. Great. I think the longest episode was like 48 minutes. That's great. But they were, again, some were like 35, some were like 39. I think your max needs to be 45, because what it does is, for example, again, The Dropout, I'm enjoying that. That's a good show. But I have to say, when I see that it's a 57-minute episode, I'm sitting there going, oh,
did it need to be?
Here we go. It doesn't. Half the time it doesn't. Yeah, because if it's a 50-minute episode, just make it. I'm almost like, why is this not just a movie? Like, if you in another world, like 20 years ago, this would have been a movie, and you would have somehow told this story in 2 hours. You know
what's funny is, after those first 3 episodes, I'm like,
yeah.
If it would have ended with her getting like kicked out, this would have just been a movie.
Yeah.
But obviously the story didn't end there. But television used to have to be 42-minute episodes because you had to pack in 2 minutes of ads in an hour block. And that was the thing. That made it sense, and like writers had to fit a story into that specific amount of time. And now it's just like, when these streaming services especially are realizing we don't have to fit in your box. And like, there could be a really brisk 28-minute episode of The Mandalorian and be like, that's the episode, that's the story they were telling. And like Pam and Tommy did that. A couple of those episodes were like, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Like 28. Yeah, the actual episode was like 28 minutes, which I was like,
great. Is 51.
Yeah. But that's fine, because that's the finale. You've been building up to that. The finale, exactly. I don't mind if I see that the finale is 50 to 1 hour, because it's the final one. But for example, what is most egregious? Like, what show made it was a painful viewing experience for me, not just because of the subject matter, but because of the show Underground Railroad. That is so guilty of this, because I read the book. I enjoyed the book. The book is 300 pages. That's not very long. It's not very long, like 330 pages. It's not a very long book. But the amount of time that is spent on these episodes on just people staring at things like pensively. And I'm sitting here going, this episode is an hour and 20 minutes long, and you feel every minute of it. And then there was randomly a 25-minute episode in there, but then every other of the 8 episodes was like almost over an hour, and I didn't want to watch it. Like, I wanted to watch it because I liked the book, and that's why I wanted to watch the show, but they somehow took the greatness of the book and made it so plodding. And I was just like, can we just get to the bits in the book? Like, they just added so much stuff that wasn't important. They did the Hobbit. No, and it was just like, again, they would just literally, it was someone in a field staring at the camera with really intense music for like 6 minutes. And I'm sitting there going, what? Did the episode pause? Like, what's going on here? That is when Barry Jenkins, someone should have been like, no, shorten your episode.
It's like cue Bilbo meme. It's like,
yeah,
I feel like 3 episodes of a show stretched out into 10-hour-long episodes. And that's the thing, and like I definitely agree. It's just like, Marvel's Mrs. Maisel, they're like good hour-long episodes, but that show I never get bored of. And like that's the thing. It's like I watched 2 full hours of that today, and it blew by. But not every show feels that way, and actually achieves.
But also because there's some levity to it, and I think that if you're going to go in with a really dramatic show, you cannot make them hour-long episodes over 10 episodes. It's too much. It's too much. You feel it. Your brain, especially if it's a binge, your brain isn't going to be able to handle it. Like I will put off watching episodes like that, like Outlander, where at least they are limited somehow sometimes, but it's like, oh my gosh, all right, someone's getting raped again, someone's being put in jail again. Like, it's so depressing. And it's like, but they will have moments of levity. They'll have moments of reprieve that'll make you be like, okay, thank God we're watching something else now. And that's the same, like Severance, for example. Those are hour-long episodes, some of them, but they don't feel hour-long episodes because it's so like quirky and different. And it's not just like everything sucks, feel the pain. It's like, ooh, what's happening? It's like got this really scary like undertone and mystery behind it, but the way in which it's presented isn't a very like, Ben Stiller. It also really reminds me of the show Maniac, like in this way of like, it's quirky and almost Wes Anderson-y, where I'm like, oh, okay, this is told in a way where what's happening here? Oh, I like these characters. Oh, these characters feel more real, ironically enough, even though they're in completely unreal environment. Yeah. And so I don't mind that 1 hour, but when it's just like depression for an hour every week on week, you're going to end up getting depression,
Well, and it's so funny because like the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones had the opposite problem. Where it was just like,
I don't understand what, like, you want to talk about part 1, part 2, like, why not just have 10 episodes? I'm so confused. Why set it up?
I'm pretty sure that they couldn't get the whole cast together for a long enough period of time to really flesh out that story, and they just rushed it.
Yeah, sorry, my dog, someone's at the front. But yeah, I see that. It's like, for example, Bridgerton, right? Regé-Jean Page isn't coming back for season 2 because he blew up with season 1 and was probably like, I can be a movie star now, and has left. Even though there was like, no, I was really sad to leave. I was like, yeah, all right. I'm sure you think you're hoping you're gonna get James Bond. We all know what's happening here. But then, like, I'm sitting there going, what idiots are these showrunners? Who makes a show, especially in Bridgerton's case, based on 8 books, where their intention is that every book is a season, so it's a guaranteed potential 8-season show, and doesn't sign on every single one of their main characters for at least that amount. Like, if you know that your show is going to be that long, I would force especially because these are up and coming actors, so they're not going to be as iffy about the contracts. I would make them sign a contract that is at least, say, 8 seasons long, not 8 seasons long. So that after that, sure, you've probably become big, whatever. If there's spin-offs, if you're still into it, you can come in. If you're not, whatever. But what idiot doesn't make them sign a contract? Because now his character, I've read the book for the second season that is based on, his character's in the book. So I don't know what they're just going to have her, like Daphne, that character, show up and not her husband, who was the entire like center point of the last season. And I guess he's always going to be away on business or back at the house or in another country. Or and it's going to be blatant.
And then it's just nobody knows any
honestly,
different.
I feel like I would just be like, just have the character in it and like, it's fine. But I mean, I think in this case, it's probably harder just because of how much Bridgerton blew up with Regé-Jean Page and Daphne, the Phoebe Divner. But in Game of Thrones case, they were supposedly this is how it was always meant to end, right? Supposedly. So they should have at least had an idea.
Because
no, I don't
George
know.
R. R. Martin still hasn't finished the books.
I'm calling bullshit almost, but like there's that famous urban tale of like the way that George R. R. Martin decided who he was going to let showrunners who guessed the correct ending. That's like how he decided who was going to be the showrunners. And so apparently, but I'm there going, I mean, if that was, I feel like George R. R. Martin is not going to end it that way anymore because no one liked it. So he's like, oh crap, I'm going to rewrite that ending real quick.
In general, I like the last season a lot more than most people.
Me
but
too.
I could even tell you, like, the pace of the last 2 seasons of that show were like breakneck. And it was just like, floor it.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. If you're about to start out on a high fantasy novel, show based on a high fantasy novel series where there's at least 8 seasons worth of content, or you know that there's like, already 5 or 6 books out and there's going to be another 2. So maybe that simple math, at least 8 seasons. Sign them on for 8. Sign on all of these actors who at the time did not have the fame that they have now. Sign them on for 8 seasons. Save yourself, just like Marvel did with Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. They signed him on for a certain amount of appearances so that even after Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. maybe might have wanted to leave and do other stuff, they had to wait until at least Endgame to have the ability to do so, which allowed us to have Endgame, because that is why Chris Evans almost turned down the role, because he didn't want to sign on for that, because he was like, oh, that's a lot of commitment. And ultimately he was probably like, money's nice though, and guaranteed work is also nice. And so, but that allowed us to have that whole arc. It allowed us to have that without the pace it was meant to have, because they did it with movies. It wasn't years, it was number of appearances. And so, of main appearances. And so that I don't understand why they don't just do that with shows. Sign them on for 8 seasons. If it gets cancelled after season 2, it gets cancelled after season 2. But at least you have the talent for that time.
With Game of Thrones, all the established actors, you're like, well, they're going to be dead soon. So that doesn't matter.
The ones you think you're going to need. Yeah, sign them on. Sign on Emilia Clarke. Sign on Peter
Sean Bean, we only need you for a season. She's like,
Exactly.
goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick side note. Can you guess who my 2 favorite characters were of Game of Thrones when I first started watching that show?
Oh no, was it Sean Bean and who else dies in season 1? I can't remember. It was I'm assuming someone else that died in season 1.
Yeah, it was Robert Baratheon.
Oh no.
I'm just like, I love these 2. And it's just like,
that's not even season 1. That's like episode 3.
Yeah, because Robert dies in like the 5th episode.
Yeah, he dies pretty early
and then Ned dies in episode?
Obviously. Was that 9 or 10?
9, I think. It's the second to last. 9,
because Game of Thrones was always the second to last, where everything intense happened. Yeah. So yeah, you're just like, well,
wow, thanks, show. But the thing is, it's like, it's so interesting with television, because it's like, obviously, like, a movie's a movie. You sit there for a couple hours and it's done. And
not anymore. Not anymore. You want to talk about movie and TV release models, like with the Batman. But the Batman, now you got shows and you got sequels and you got spin-offs.
Yeah.
Stop trying to copy Marvel, DC.
I'm still gonna watch that Penguin show though.
I will watch it because I need to keep up on it, but it's like I'm exhausted just thinking about all the Marvel content I'm going to have to keep up with now to keep it ahead of. I can commit with one cinematic universe. I don't know if I can do it with multiple,
Yeah. And it's just like, DC's just a hot mess anyway. So,
yeah.
And clearly, that's the thing. They're having multiple ones now, because like now we have the Matt Reeves cinematic universe. Specifically because you have his Batman, his Catwoman's getting a show, his Penguin's getting a show. It's just like they're gonna have an Arkham Asylum show now instead of the Gotham PD show that they were originally gonna do. I'm just like,
they're gonna do a sequel. That's already 5 or 6 pieces of content. Plus you've got Marvel, because I was talking with my friend this year with Marvel. We have all the movies. So that's what we've got coming up. Doctor Strange, Thor Love and Thunder, which I have to say, everyone's like, where's the Thor Love and Thunder trailer? I'm like, obviously it's coming out with the Doctor Strange movie. I mean, Marvel don't need to market people. They could not market anything ever again and they could still get the same amount.
Endgame, they barely showed anything.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man, the trailer didn't come out. The Spider-Man trailer didn't come out until like 3 months beforehand, you know?
Yeah.
They're just going to start doing that. The trailer will come out with the movie proceeding or the whatever it is proceeding. So we've got Doctor Strange, Thor Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever, which apparently is actually, it's not going to get pushed. It will be able to be done in time. So we got that.
We'll see.
Then we've got the TV. Yeah, we'll see. Then we've got the TV shows of Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, season 2 of Loki potentially this year, if not next year. We've got, you know, Spider-Man freshman year, I Am Groot, What If season 2. Like, it's just
and you have Secret Invasion, Armor Wars
coming up, Ironheart, Echo,
Werewolf by Night, which Michael Giacchino just got named the director of.
Wait, I haven't heard of that one. That's a new one.
It's a one-off special. So I think it's like a one-off special on Disney Plus.
Well, they're doing that now too. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have a holiday special.
Yeah.
So that's another one. Yeah, because James Gunn, which I have to say, Peacemaker, because James Gunn, you know, like that's getting a second season. I don't even know what's happening. I just think it's so much. And that's another thing with TV. Like you say, I watch a lot of TV, which I do. And it's just because there's so much. Because if the concept intrigues me, that's when I'll put it down. But so many interesting concepts are coming out, you know, where it's like, obviously it's great because that means because of the streaming services, people who normally would have been rejected by networks or might have been canceled by networks, which I have to say, I sometimes feel like Netflix is getting on that where they just cancel things randomly. And you're just like, but why did you cancel that one but keep that one? Where was the thought process there?
Where's your analytics?
Exactly. Not that we'll ever know unless it's successful. But then, so it's great because it means that everyone has the ability to actually make these random little shows like Made by Love. You know, that's another one where it's like basically a Black Mirror episode come to life. And so it's happening here and there, but it's like, I can't keep up. Like when you were rattling off the shows you're watching, 3 of them, I was like, oh yeah, I want to watch that. Oh yeah, I want to watch that. And I'm just like, oh no, I don't have time. I don't have between the movies and TV. This is such a first world problem, but it's getting really exhausting to be a fan of movies and TV. I wonder if one day it's just going to be like only TV or only movies because you can't keep up with it all.
So like, it's funny because my thing to most people at SiftPop is change sees everything.
Yeah.
It gets exhausting after a while.
Yeah.
And like sometimes like I'm hitting that breaking point because like I have a full-time job and a part-time job that has nothing to do with movies. Like I work at a college, I run a tutoring center, and I teach at a college. And then I do all this shit on my own time. And then it's just like, some days I'm like... Plus,
there's a social life in there somewhere.
That was the thing. COVID had me headlong into this lifestyle. And now I'm like trying to come out of it and just like, wait a minute. I can't keep... This is not sustainable anymore if I want human interaction with people.
That's exactly right. So before COVID... my TV tracker, so right now it's at like 100 episodes as of today for me to catch up on. Before COVID hit, I was at 469 episodes of things to catch up on because things were coming out, but I had, you know, you weren't able to work from home as much and like social life. And obviously life was so different only a few years ago. Yeah. And now we're coming out of it again. And it's like, I caught up on everything. Yay. Oh no, everything's still coming out at the same rate. But also I have like, you have your fiance soon to be wife. I have my partner. We have friends. I have a full-time job as well. And like, you know, oh my goodness, my brain. And I also have to, and now put it all of that, plus it's Oscars time right now. So I'm spending a lot of time that I would be using to watch TV to watch the
Checking
movies
out
I catch up
Cyrano.
on. I saw that like yesterday, yeah, and then to this morning I watched Worst Person in the World, and I did the math. I have 10 movies left for me to have watched everything, and so there's like barely 3 weeks, not even really. It's like
And
2
we'll be
weeks and
hanging
2
out
days
in 2 days from now,
to
recording with
discuss last
Aaron
year's.
and discussing why 2020 sucked. Because
Yeah,
that was
and
the
hopefully
general
by
feeling that.
2021.
Well, just to put in perspective, so I have a Google sheet that I keep track of shows. I legitimately have 591 shows on this Google sheet that are
Yeah,
active shows. And that's not
yeah,
even every show. And
yeah.
so just to give you a little perspective too, so I just watched my 150th movie of
Yeah.
2022 so far. Actual releases of 2022. And
Yeah.
here's the thing. There are still another 242 I haven't watched.
Yeah.
Because it's just infinite amount of
Yes.
content. And on some level, that's an amazing thing that so many creators get to create all those things. But you can't watch it all. And
No.
you have to be able to figure that out. And that's why and circling this all back around, when it comes down to it, I enjoy the weekly thing because I could commit 20, the lowest 20 minutes
Yeah.
to an hour and 5 minutes, depending
Yeah.
on what show it is, once a week.
Yeah.
And that works better for me.
Me too. 100%. Which is why, like, again, I like the 3 just because that'll give me an idea of should I stick with this show or not. For example, a show I dropped was Ordinary Joe, because that came out and I was like, okay, we'll watch it. I watched the first 3. It was super boring. So I was like, you've taken the sliding doors concept and somehow made it super boring. So no. But like the big leap was coming out at the same time, and I gave that 3. The first couple episodes were not very good, but then the third and that gave me enough, and I actually really ended up loving that show. So that's another thing. But yeah, it's just there's just so much, and it just gets down to the point of sometimes you end up watching TV and shows because you're like, well, I've committed this long, I might as well. But it's getting to the point where you can't really afford to have that as a mindset anymore, because there's just so much else coming. And we're about to hit, like, we're in March and about to hit April. We're about to hit a huge influx of content, like looking at my upcoming is obviously We Crashed coming out, as well as Life and Beth. And, I'm just literally Halo is about to come out. Bridgerton's about to come out. We Crashed is about to come out. The Girl from Plainville is another one. Moon Knight, obviously, is another one. And so it's just like all these crazy shows. Barry, finally, season 3 is about to come out.
Am I incorrect in remembering this? When did the last season of Barry end?
I will tell you right now.
Years?
2019. 20th of May, 2019 is the last episode of Barry. You know what I remember about Barry? Very little.
Like the last thing that I remember
so
is somebody getting potentially
murked. Yes.
And waiting 3 years to find out, that's always fun.
Yeah. Plus, and then all of that isn't even to take into account Obi-Wan, Stranger Things, The Boys, and the Orville. Like, it's insane. And this isn't even everything coming. This is just everything that currently has a release date. So there's other shows that just all of a sudden... Yeah, and there's so many other big things that don't have release dates yet, but they are coming out, and they will just come out. Like they'll I feel like with TV now, especially, it's not really like, let's market it for a few months. It's more like, we'll market it for like a month max, and then it'll come out. People will find out because it's going to be on this. It's going to pop up on the big marketing is having it on the big screen on the streaming service.
Yeah, well, to be frank, you could just have Netflix. Netflix has enough content to keep you busy for forever. And that's their thing. But not the biggest fan of all Netflix's content anymore. That's why I have HBO Max in my life.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. You need others. Like I said, I hate Amazon Prime's UI, but I'm absolutely going to be watching Rings of Power when it comes out. And, and that's September. That's not even technically on my release date list, because even though I already know that's coming out 1st of September.
Yeah, because
So
the
there's
Lord of the
so
Rings
many
show.
other yeah, it's a really expensive Lord of the Rings show. It's $1 billion Lord of the Rings show.
Which
You
it's
hope
like,
it's going to be good.
I don't know how everybody else felt. I was pretty underwhelmed by Wheel of Time. And I'm like,
I really liked it.
I was just like,
really liked it.
I'm like, okay.
Bless you.
Thank you. Or maybe not. Whatever. But the thing is, it's like, I'm like, okay, this is a fantasy show. And I read all 15 books of Wheel of Time.
Okay. See, I haven't yet because it's 15 books. And there's a part of me going like, you're not ready for that yet.
Well, here's the thing. I refuse to read Game of Thrones until he finishes. I am not committing any of my time to reading those books.
I wish I'd done that with Name of the Wind, because at least that's a trilogy. But oh my God, that's another one that's in the ether. Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to show run that. And it's an amazing story. But like the last book of that, The Doors of Stone, which is, it's called the King Killer Chronicles. Oh, a bit of a tongue twister there. It's called the King Killer Chronicles, and no kings have been killed yet in the series. So everything has been coming up to this final book, and when the last one came out, 2011. Like, Patrick Rothfuss is just taking his time, because it's the same thing. They're pretending that they're working on it. George R. R. Martin and him, they're working on it. They're not. There's too much pressure now. So they're horrified at the prospect of bringing out the book and everybody hating their ending. And all of us fans are just sitting here going, this is great. You got me all interested in these characters now, and I'm just sitting here waiting like for the king in this freaking Chronicles to be killed. Who is the king? We don't even know who the king that's going to be killed is. Like, it's just so stupid.
I'm gonna cue Judge Smales from Caddyshack. Well, we're waiting. Just sitting there. But
exactly.
Alice, obviously we had a lot of thoughts on how shows are released, and honestly kind of evolved into like the inevitability of unsustainable amount of content that there is out there. But do you have any last minute thoughts on TV show releases, or I guess shows in general?
Yeah, look, I think we're saying all these things and we've complained and talked about our hates, but it is fantastic to see that TV has evolved like this. As someone who also used to go home and sit in front of the TV, 6 p.m., I used to watch cartoons, and then I used to watch from 6 p.m. Simpsons all the way through to like Law and Order, NCIS, and then I'd go to bed. That was like, that's how my little fandom TV nerd started when I was, 10 or 11. And it's continued into today. But it's so fantastic to see that there is so much content out there that isn't just network television and limited by what network television will allow, where there are so many shows where back in the day they got cancelled, absolutely would not be cancelled nowadays. Absolutely would not. Like Firefly or Not a Normal Family, or so many shows that nowadays would have been celebrated and had multiple seasons. And it's great that we have the ability for these stories to be told. And for even as a book reader, or as a reader, I should say, like, there are so many amazing stories that are yet to be adapted. And they're finally, I love that TV has gotten to this point where we can adapt it in a way that is actually going to serve the story. For example, the Percy Jackson series. The movies came out, they were garbage. Rick Riordan hated it so much. He was so protective over it. And then Disney Plus was like, we will let you do this series. We will let you showrun it and be part of it. Sorry, not showrun it, but be part of it. And we will let you tell this story properly. and I follow him on Instagram, and he keeps you up to date, and they're doing it properly. They're casting unknowns in the main leads. They're doing the Harry Potter thing, right? But in TV.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Percy Jackson series, like if you count all the companion series, and that's 49 plus books.
Yeah.
That's a huge cinematic universe that's yet to be tapped into. But now, because TV has the respect and the time and the following, we actually can get these stories told properly. Like, honestly, Shane, I give it maybe 20 years until we get a reboot of Harry Potter, but everything in the books is going to be included in the show. But it's going to be a show, not a movie series. Yeah. And I wouldn't be mad about that. And I really love that. I love that, that we're going to get faithful adaptations of books, and also just fully, truly original stories like Severance again, that will be able to be told in the state they're going to be told, and not crammed into a 2-hour movie. Yeah. And I love that it has the respect of that. It's not like movies are up here, TV is down here. It's now a level playing field.
Thank you,
and that's
HBO.
Fantastic. Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's really, really great, because then based on your preference, you can get your fantasy kicks out in TV, or you can get them in movies, depending on the way you like stories told. So all these complaints, and it's like we're spoiled for choice. That's the thing. And that's a good problem to have. And so I just really want to say that is why I watch so much TV, because I have so much choice, because I have so much in front of me. And there's never been a better time to be a pop culture nerd, really.
Yeah.
But it's also really exhausting.
Which I'm sitting here looking at. I have like 3 piles of books that I haven't read, because I definitely took a hiatus from reading for a couple years and still occasionally collected books. And I'm sitting here looking at The Dark Tower, as in like the last one. I've read all of them except for the last book. And like, bring that to a show. That would, I think, work better as a show than attempting to try to make those all into movies, because they're just so dense. Some of them, obviously the first book is pretty lean, but like not this one. I'm staring at The Dark Tower.
Stephen King. It's Stephen King being his Stephen Kingiest.
And then I remembered, oh wait, Better Call Saul's going to be coming out too. I get real sad, because, and that was the thing, because Breaking Bad helped change television. And you
Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, it really did. Like, Game of Thrones, look, it may have crashed and burned bigger. And again, I'm like you, I'm one of the few. I didn't hate the final season. I agree that it didn't do it right, but I didn't finish that going like, oh, everything is ruined. But it really helped elevate the status of television, and for that, everyone should always be thankful.
Well, and that you can do that when you can have a show like Westworld come out after it, which is based off of a pretty cheesy 70s sci-fi movie, and something that has Anthony Hopkins in it. And like, legitimately, like, there's film actors that you probably never thought you would see on a TV. And they are.
Look at The Morning Show. Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. Jennifer Aniston, who was someone who like managed to graduate from TV and become a movie star, has come back to TV. Look at Kate Winslet. Too. Yeah, Steve Carell's another one. And look at Kate Winslet with Mayor of Easttown, Nicole Kidman in like 3 or 4, like you got The Undoing, Big Little Lies, and Nine Perfect Strangers. It's insane.
Yeah, it's like you're getting full movie casts in these TV shows and stuff like that. Even like something like Severance. Look at, like, Christopher Walken's in a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. John Turturro, Christopher Walken, Adam Scott, and done by Ben Stiller. And again, going back to the show that it reminds me of, Maniac, which was headed by Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, know? It's insane. And it's great.
It's a crazy time. Had a lot of thoughts about a lot of things the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
My next episode of Wasteland Talks is going to be my Oscar picks, because this is going to, by the time that actually releases, that's going to be the Tuesday before the Oscars, because the Oscars are coming up. Crazy. But if you want to hear our thoughts on last year's Oscars, you should check out SiftPop Writers Room because that's coming up too. But Alice, thank you so much for all of your time because we definitely talked a lot about stuff and your patience. And thank you as always for coming on.
Of course, it was so much fun. I always love coming on, and thank you for also the cameos from my dogs as well, the audio cameos. Thank you for allowing that. But no, it was amazing to be on as always, Shane. And yeah, can't wait till next time.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.